Hello, everybody. Welcome to the AngeloStrains and Nedaj420 podcast. Today is episode 4, and today's topic is my job and how I deal with pushing through with it. So, to start it off, I just came back from my job, basically. I wouldn't say exhausted, but I'd say I had a good significant amount of energy taken out of me. Doesn't mean I'm not energetic right now, but let's just say I use a good portion of today's energy. But I still have energy, I like to believe that I have limitless energy. Just a good portion of it was used. But that's what I'm gonna say. So today I'm just basically gonna talk about my job. So what my job is I'm basically a construction worker. I've been working in construction for the past 3 years. The first time was I was a laborer, the bottom of the food chain, and then I became a machine operator. And now I'm a machine operator and a laborer. A skilled laborer is what they call it, but I believe it's just a laborer with higher pay. But so yeah, I worked for 3 years in a construction environment, and in construction it's a very toxic environment. First of all, you get exhausted easily. When I first worked in construction, my body was not used to moving that much. I was not used to moving at a certain speed. I was not used to thinking at a fast pace, to working at a fast speed, and also working competently and efficiently. My body was not used to that. My body, and also my entire mentality and my entire mindset and the whole thing. I wasn't used to people shouting at me, calling me names that were, I'd say, for a normal workplace, you're not supposed to hear those kinds of insults. Well, basically, construction's completely opposite. Construction is like the Wild West in terms of toxicity. No one gives a damn, and there's like a code within all the workers that you can't rat each other out, or no one's ever gonna have respect for you. Right? Because in construction, you gotta understand that environment is very constricting. It's very people want to get shit done. And they will probably yell the biggest insults in order for you to move faster or to do things properly, because everyone's stressed the hell out in that environment. And also, there's no women. Well, most sites don't have a lot of women, and what I've noticed is whenever there is a woman, everyone acts differently. Everyone stops and talks with them. No one's really as focused, but it's mostly a male-dominated environment. And the first few months, when I first worked in construction, my body was not built for it. I was sweating, I was gasping for air, my breaths were labored and all that stuff. And the thing with construction is, if you survive the first to second month, your body becomes used to it physically. But mentally, on the other hand, it's a completely different story. When you're in construction, it takes a long time to mentally get used to it compared to physically getting used to it. Because when you're doing construction mentally, you go through all kinds of phases of thinking. My first mindset when I went to construction is, I'm just wandering through life. I don't give a shit. I'm just gonna do the worst job I possibly can as long as I earn money. I don't even wanna, I don't care much about my life. And that didn't work out so well, because construction really told me that life was going to get worse, and I was seeing the full spectrum of it, and I didn't really want to be in that kind of hole for the rest of my life. So I basically I basically got out of that mindset pretty quickly. The second mindset I had was, I want to prove to these guys that I am capable, So I purposely put myself on edge all the time. But the problem with putting yourself on edge is you kind of lose focus of the actual job at hand. And because you're on edge all the time, you're always putting unnecessary stress onto your head to the point where you can't even focus properly. So that was the second mindset that I got rid of. Third one was depression and anxiety. And so this one led to me not wanting to basically live anymore because I was pretty shit at everything I was doing construction. I was basically the bottom of the food chain. Everyone's hazing ground. I was everyone's punching bag. If I lashed out, I would get made fun of even more. People would yell at me even more. I would get called nicknames because of that specific event of lashing out. It's either you lash out, stand up for yourself, and get made fun of even more, or you keep quiet and still get made fun of. Like, the only way, for me, in my experience, the only way that I could ever earn respect of my coworkers in construction was if I worked hard, did things competently, displayed confidence, and worked efficiently and on time. If I couldn't do any of that, there was no respect. You were gonna, and also being actually at work every day, you know. People appreciate it when you're at work every day. If you kind of slack off a bit, they're gonna be like, oh, this guy's fucking lazy, get him the fuck out of the site, you know. So yeah, that was basically how things went in the construction environment I was in. You gotta understand, in construction, respect is earned. It's not given. Like, I know in other job places and offices, they have these kinds of terms of agreement that you have to show respect and show politeness and tolerance and all that stuff. Construction, absolutely the opposite. It is the fucking hazing ground. You will be demolished if you do not keep up. It is survival of the fittest, in terms of mentality and in terms of physical and your physical presence. Or I shouldn't say survival of the fittest. I would say survival of the ones who can adapt pretty quickly. So if you're clever, if you're quick to catch on, if you're observant, you're focused all the time, you see better ways of doing things, quicker ways of doing things, more efficient ways of doing things, you're gonna catch on pretty quick. And yeah, that's basically the experience I had to go through firstly when I was initially introduced to this whole construction environment. And so after that whole depression and stress mindset that I went through, and full of anxiety, I kind of went back to school for a little bit, but that didn't work out, so I went back into construction. But in a higher position, I was a machine operator. But this being a machine operator, you're dealing with a lot more stress, because not only are you putting other people around you at risk, but you're also costing the company a lot of money if you fuck up. So I had the luxury and the experience of working with unfathomably a lot of stress, or how to interminable amount of stress. I don't exactly know the proper word for it. But yeah, and then that made me realize that I want my life to be a lot better than this. I didn't want I didn't want to be in a very, waking up. Actually, I don't know. I have kind of mixed feelings when it comes to waking up early in the morning, being the first and last ones on site, because it's a really, it makes you feel productive. But I guess long term, I didn't want to be in a career that was always this toxic and always being under stress all day. I'll lose my hair by the time I'm in my mid 30s. That wasn't something I really wanted to keep around me for the long term, in the long run in my life, right? So yeah, so basically construction, and that stressful era that I went through. If you ever were caught being emotional, or the hazing increases, right? So that's something I had to avoid. I had to kind of bottle up my emotions. This was before I learned of self improvement, and before I learned of stoicism. So I bottled up my emotions a lot until it exploded, and unfortunately, I had the tenacity to lash out at people that were close to me, and that wasn't a good experience. So during that time, I was basically getting incompetent, careless, and depressed because of the amount of stress I was getting. And because of that amount of stress and all the experiences of being incompetent and careless, I had the all-time lowest self-confidence I had during that period of time. And I just had to go through it for a long time of just self-doubting all the time. And I realized, I guess after a while, when there comes a point where you realize I don't want to be in this self-doubting position for the rest of my life. It's like a horrible experience. I don't want to experience this forever. So I kind of went uh through this whole self-improvement phase where I basically said, you know what? What if I just say, for example, for a day, I pretended to believe in myself all the time? So I went back to work pretending to believe in myself, and then I actually started believing in myself in the journey of pretending to believe in myself. And I found that I was more confident. I got more things done. And I started also becoming more competitive for some reason within myself. I was able, and through self improvement, I was able to control my emotions. I learned about stoicism, and I tested out how strong my mindset was. And first time I did, I was still emotional. I was still angry at everyone that was shouting at me. I took it personally, you know, and I was so bored every time. I was counting the hours at work, whenever how many hours left, etc., etc. It wasn't a good time when I was in that first initial self improvement phase. But over time, I kept training my mind to keep going, to keep working, to focus on the actual work at hand, to completely be present. And I learned that when you're present in your work, and when you're present in your work and you really focus exactly on what you are doing, you don't really notice the time. Time goes by fast. And so I implemented that day after day. And so to the point where instead of counting the hours, I was starting to count how much work I could get done in one day and I was always challenging myself to beat beat a certain number of tasks done in one day, and the next day I would basically complete more tasks. I would always try to have a personal record of how many tasks I could get completed in one day, and that was a fucking cool ass time because I was just so driven. I became competitive. I wanted to be proud of my work, and that's exactly, and using all that stuff and implementing all those things, I became proud of my work. So that led to the mindset of being competitive and challenging myself. I wanted I found that the baseline was I had self-confidence, I was doing things competently. So I started believing I want to do more. I want to be at the top of the top. I want to be at the height of everything. The height of all that long-term gratification, not the short-term ones. I wanted to know what actual accomplishment felt like. Actually being on top, people looking up to you, felt like the top of the top in terms of being fucking good at this shit, man. So I started thinking in like, even though I was having negative experiences during this period of time, my mind would start automatic because my mind has implemented so many self-improvement tactics for a while and also trained through them, like stoicism and controlling my emotions. I was able to turn any negative thought into something positive to reinforce that drive. So whenever I was stressed, my mind would say, you know, it's better to be stressed than bored because boredom is fucking terrible. I hate being bored, right? And being stressed means you're doing something productive most of the time, at least for most people. And then I guess I wanted even more. I started believing that because I was succeeding within myself and sort of succeeding doing my work in construction, I eventually arrived at the mindset and the thought of what if I succeeded in life in general as a whole. So that's when I started doing a bunch of work outside construction as well, because I wanted to kind of create my life portfolio as a person like with virtues, principles, and then also work ethic, organization, stoicism, a steel mindset, a steel body. I was improving with my physical body as well, networking, social friends. Like that's the kind of mindset I am right now. I want to kind of expand, I guess. And because I learned the work ethic through construction really integrated so much and like just shoved in through through that harsh environment, a steel work ethic, to the point where if I do anything, I guess I have that same work ethic integrated into me. So I had the hope that I could move up in life if I had complete focus and kept working hard. That's basically the kind of things that go through my head to this day as I work in construction. No matter if it's a rainy, muddy day, no matter if my superiors are shouting at me, insulting me, and telling me, what the fuck are you doing? You can't even fucking think, you know? Like, for example, this one time, my superior, I was basically pumping out water through hoses. And when the water is pumping and a hose is bent, it has like this kind of kink in the middle that stops the water from flowing through the hose. And my superiors told me to pull it, but because I wasn't, I was kind of stressed. I just pulled the hose without thinking, oh, there's a kink on that other side of the hose that he wanted me to pull, but I just pulled at some random point. And it got him a little bit wet, and it got me a little bit wet because of the water started spraying everywhere. He's like, how do you not fucking understand that I want you to pull the kink, not just like some random spot in the hose, so that the water can flow properly? And I'm like, oh shit. If only I took time to actually observe the environment and all that stuff. But the way he yelled, if it was a new guy, the new guy would probably break down. But that's why it's important to have a steel mindset. If that kind of incident happened to me 3 years ago, I would probably not be ready for it. Versus now, my brain, my mentality, my body had to go through a lot to arrive at this point, and it's still going through a lot. And I'm kind of excited and challenging, and challenged and competitive to see what the future has in store for me as well. And that's how I basically deal with pushing through the harshness of my job. I came to the point in my mindset where I basically want to explore how resilient it is to all these negative things that happen to me and just keep pushing against me. I want to see how much of a resilience I can really take into my mental state and also my physical state. If I could keep a straight face, keep my head focused at all times. All anything that's negative doesn't help me at all, or just unnecessary or irrelevant, just goes from one ear to the other, doesn't even touch the brain. I always like testing out myself like that, being competitive with that kind of thing, challenging myself through those kinds of obstacles. And I guess that's how I deal with my job every single day. I have that kind of mindset integrated into me. Even though my job has always had a toxic environment, I just learned to adapt. And yeah, that's basically all I gotta say for this topic. That's basically how I deal with this whole thing. So there you go. So thank you for listening, and I'll see you in the next video.